The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hi, I'm Daniel Likis, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Two Floors Above Grief, no other than Mr. Kevin OConnor. Welcome, Mr. Kevin, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure, Dan. Thanks for this opportunity to be on the podcast here with you. Yeah, I'm the author of a book I published 3 years ago. It's called Two Floors Above Grief. It's the subtitle's a memoir of two families in the unique place we called home. That unique place is pictured on the cover. This cover just won an award this week as from bedsidereading.com is the best cover in the memoir category. So I'm proud of that other opportunity to get visibility for the book. The book, it's like I said, it's a memoir. I wrote it to talk about my own upbringing in this house. My dad and my uncle owned a funeral home in that they opened in 1930 in a town called Elgin, Illinois. And they had this property right here, an old Victorian house built in the 1880s. They converted the first floor into a funeral home business, and then the second two floors were our family residences. On the second floor was my aunt and uncle and their three daughters, and the top floor, which used to be a ballroom in the original house, was where my two brothers, my mom and I resided. So that was my home from the time I was a baby, brought home in 1950 to this house, and then stayed there pretty much through my college years in the early 70s. So about 5 years ago, I was afforded the opportunity with some time to be able to chronicle the stories of the family. And I based those stories, for the most part, on archived letters that were written back and forth between members of the family starting in the 1930s up through the 70s. So I used the content of those letters to really unpack who the characters were, mostly my dad and my uncle and my mom and my aunt, who were the driving force of the business. And then I also relate a lot of stories in the book about things that happen in our house and in our family. I didn't do it sequentially. I just picked themes in the book and traced those themes to convey the story of the book. So that's in a few sentence summary. That's that's about the book. That's what I have about the book.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Kevin. Thank you. The title, Two Floors Above Grief, is evocative. Can you paint a picture of this unique place you called home and explain how its physical structure mirrored or shaped the emotional landscape of the two families living together?
Yeah, in a brief summary, I mean, we're covering 40 or 50 years in the book, but I was fortunate to live in a house where the two sets of parents got along reasonably well. The moms in the family, had their roles both inside and outside the home to support the business. And the stories I tell from my own point of view talk about my early experiences with grief and death. It was partially normalized for me because living in that environment, I knew what a casket and a coffin were from a very young age. When my dad was working in the business, doing his what he needed to do, sometimes he would just bring me with him and put me on the floor with my toys while he did his work. not in the
Hmm.
embalming room or anything like that, but more in the parlors and the chapels. So um, the idea that um, the idea that I was had some comprehension of end of life and death from a very young age, I think made a difference in the way I approach my life, the kind of encounters that I have, and just the idea as a kid that my house was different than my friends, and I think they talk about that on the back cover. As a child in the 1950s, Kevin knew his house was different than those of his friends. But one of the beautiful parts is that wasn't being in a funeral home wasn't a reason for my parents or my aunt and uncle to say my friends weren't welcome or that I shouldn't bring friends home. Um, and quite the contrary. My friends, my brother's friends, my cousin's friends were welcome in the home and came over, and we had sleepovers and outings and uh, people hanging out, for lack of a better word, at our house, just like we went to our friends' houses. So even to the point where some of my friends, when my father needed some pallbearers or people to help out, he would say to me, "Hey, have some of your friends come over. I need some help with this. I need some help for you to carry the casket. I need some help to be." And this or might be also those situations might be where the deceased had no family, they had no friends. Uh, my father was taking care of a funeral and a service for somebody that didn't have anybody in their life. So he had myself and my friends be those representatives of the community. So that's something that my friends still talk about to this day. I'm 76 years old now, so this is happening in the late 50s, early 60s when this is happening, and uh, I had a friend mention it to me as recently as yesterday. So that's one of the stories I tell is my experiences and about what it was like to be in an atmosphere in an apartment above a funeral home and how we had to respect the wishes of the people who were in the business. I mean, in the business at a wake or having their family funeral. The idea that we weren't to make too much noise or to be careful with how we interacted with the clients that were coming in and out of the funeral home. So it was just, like I said, it was a very unique experience and lessons that I've learned from there. I've taken into my other professions. I was a career educator, principal, teacher, college educator. So I've taken the lessons from the funeral home experience into my other careers.
Home is typically private, singular family space. What were the unspoken rules, rhythms, and negotiations that had to be established to make this shared dwelling a functional and ultimately a healing home for two families?
Okay, I think based on what I am understanding from your question, I think one of the things that both my father and my uncle did, uh, they didn't bring the business upstairs with them. They, even though we had a little idea, even as a child, what they were doing, they were very discretionary, as you need to be in this kind of profession. Uh, even though each family that came to them as a client had their own stories, their own situations, the situations of the death itself were different and unique to each situation. But I think one of the things that made uh, the home life work well was those stories weren't shared with us, and I didn't think much about it until I was an adult, until I was writing this book, that it was my dad and my uncle, their the importance for them to be discretionary and respectful of the families that came to seek their services, and they I'm sure they knew that children's ears are pretty big, and we listen a lot, and so everything. When dad came up for dinner or other activities, it was he may mention that he's what he called busy downstairs, but he didn't bring up probably even when I might have questioned him, he didn't bring up or talk about the situations in a particular family. And I've really grown to appreciate that, not only from my dad and uncle, but also for the funeral business industry as a whole. That's such a prime element of the work that funeral directors do to keep those situations confidential and discreet. So that's one takeaway I offer from not only being in the environment as a child and teenager, but reflecting on it as I sit here this many years later.
Mr. Kevin, in memoirs, place often acts as the silent character. How these architectures, sounds, and daily patterns of the shared house become a container for both your collective and grief and your collective survival.
Yeah, I like that question. Thank you. Yeah, the it was one thing about this environment, since it had been a single family home prior to my family moving in the late 1930s. Um, there was no, for me to get to my the residence on the third floor, I had to walk through the living areas of my aunt and uncle who lived on the second floor, either coming up the back stairs or up the front stairs. Oftentimes I'd stop at the kitchen of my aunt and my uncle to visit, or they would say, "How you doing?" They would check in with me as I came up their stairs and walked through. It wasn't unusual for me to uh, go to their living areas, their living room, to look at their bookshelves or to read the newspaper. Or when I took piano lessons, the piano was in their living room. So it was very much an unconventional, I think, way to grow up, to have this kind of interchange with two families. Fortunately, as I said earlier, we all got along, and there was never a question of um, there was the word conflict really doesn't come up so much at all. And the idea that my aunt and uncle were just as looking out for me just as much as my parents were. It was being raised with two parents. So the environment was unique and for two families. It's not unusual in the funeral home industry, especially in the last century, uh, to have families live above, are connected to, or maybe the house next door to the business. They needed to have that kind of proximity. Uh, but to have two families there is, well, I think, what separates our family from other families that were involved in this situation, and to have us interactive with each other. And my the cousins who lived in the second floor, although they were uh, about 19 to 16 years older than me, we had a relationship that was more like brothers and sisters. So with the six of us cousins, myself, my two brothers, and my three cousins, we were pretty much raised as brothers and sisters. My parents did many things for my cousins as they grew up and got married and had their own children. They were very active, not only as an aunt and uncle, but parents as well. So that's some of the things I bring into the story, that what makes us unique and what has kept us close. The offspring are now numbering in over 100 offspring from this house. So, and we, the youngest of these offsprings, are probably just a few months old right now. That would be my parents and my aunt and uncle's great grandchildren. So, but we all still stay in touch, and I think there was a strong sense of connection in the years we were living there that has continued, and that adds to the legacy not only of our family, but adds to the legacy of the book and the content and the stories that are there.
Interesting, interesting. Mr. Kevin, the concept of chosen family is powerful. At what point did the people two floors above or below start being neighbors sharing a roof and start becoming essential family like pillars in your life?
Oh, I think I'm understanding. Well, the people that, again, I didn't know any different. That is the kind of family I was brought home to. So I didn't know any different than to have another set of adults, to my aunt and uncle, that were there on the second floor, encountering them every day, sitting in their kitchen, being in their living room, sharing meals sometimes, um, taking trips with them, just like I took trips with my mom and dad. So the two families were very much integrated together from the very start of my awareness. And like I said, I didn't really know any different. As I look back, I realize now just how unique it was, and that how I learned so much, not only from my parents, but from my aunt and uncle and my cousins, that they helped, those elements that I learned from them helped to form my character and who I am and who I am, who I was, who I probably will be. I still take with me um, the kind of nurturing that I got in this kind of environment. Plus, this nurturing then being surrounded, I guess, if I'm looking for the right word, surrounded by this element of grief, as I would help out in the funeral home, whether it be parking cars or holding the door for people or greeting people or working in the yard. The idea that I was this funeral home kid, um, and knowing what it meant, I think really enriched my experiences about the beginnings and the endings and the continuity of life, and how it's just the whole aspect of joy and grief, how they walk together. I think I had the joy in my family life, yet I knew that there was grief going on with the families who came to the business, and certainly I had grief in my own family too. So I think it's given me a perspective to really look at grief in a way that is perhaps different than how other people look at grief.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Kevin. So, as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
I missed the last part of your question. What?
What are your short-term and long-term goals as an
Short-term
author?
goals. Okay. My short-term goals, or what I'm doing currently, is just continuing to market the book and to find other channels and learning about and being active in the book publishing and marketing world. I needed, as a self-published author, I needed to start my own publishing company. And in this world of self-publishing, independent authorship, I, like so many others like me, do my own marketing. So my short-term goals is to keep up with that, and it's fortunately I enjoy it, so I get to do that. My long-term goals are to work. I'm in the process of developing two ideas for next books, because I know that in our writing world, our author world, it's to our advantage to have more than one title in the marketplace. So I'm working on that, and also I'm long-term goal is to I'm working on speaking engagements that entail topics that some of the topics relate to grief, but I'm working on extensions from the book to do speaking engagements, and to write articles, and to do be involved with you on podcast. So long-term goals is just to take the skills that I have developed over my lifetime in writing, to keep doing that, but also to continue to work on opportunities that put me in front of audiences to speak about my perspective that's related to the book, or other topics that have occurred to me in my life.
Well, good luck to your goals, Mr. Kevin. I'm looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Hmm. Well, I guess what I've learned throughout my career is resilience. To just I'm pretty optimistic by nature, but I always keep working on that when I'm getting discouraged if things aren't going my way, what I perceive to be my way, or if things uh, aren't going according to plan. I want to let people know you just need to keep going, and to identify and acknowledge what happens in our lives, to pull as many things together as we can to help get us to whatever next step we've decided on and created for ourselves. Just recently, I did a post on with what's going on in our country right now with the football playoffs, college playoffs, professional playoffs, and how there's a whole aspect of grief in our world of sports. So I work on my with podcast and in the writing to alert people to different triggers they might have in their life that have maybe a base or a figment of grief, and how to deal with that, and how to move forward, and how to find the joy in grief. And I think, like I said earlier in this conversation, I want to help advise people is to joy and grief walk hand in hand, and no matter what pursuits we're doing, what our career we're pursuing, whether it's in our family and our job, there's that mixture of sadness and joy that come together, and that's part of it. And I think part of what I know about grief is that the grief represents love and joy. We wouldn't have grief unless we had love or joy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to impart to the people as they're seeking, or any kind of lessons that I've learned to impart to them.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. Mark. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Another book?
Yes, that influence your journey.
I think you're just asking me to what other books am I reading that I'm enjoying?
Yes, please. That you
Okay.
want to recommend to our listeners.
Oh, sure. Well, I would encourage them to look up an author named Tim O'Brien, Obrien. He's written a number of books. The one I just finished reading was about him being a father at a later stage in life. He became a father in his 50s, and he raising kids that he hopes he can live long enough to enjoy them and do an adulthood. But he has a great perspective on parenting. He also is a Vietnam War vet, and has lots of historical knowledge. So interspersed in his discussions about his children and him being a parent, he relates a lot of information about his experiences on the front in the Vietnam War, his military experiences, and how they tie into other military experiences in history, going back to medieval times and up through now. He is a great font of knowledge. I really enjoyed reading Tim O'Brien's book.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Mark. And tell us, your story is specific yet universal. What do you believe is most relatable human truth at the heart of Two Floors Above Grief for someone who has not experienced this exact situation?
What makes the stories unique? Well, I think in this book, one of the things that makes the stories unique is using, you can't see it on here, but on the cover in the background are pictures of the letters that were written between the families. And I think one of the things that makes the stories unique is that I took their actual words that they used in their letters, and I incorporated them into the dialogue and into the content that I was writing. So the letters themselves convey the characters, and when I picked segments or parts of their letters, I didn't edit them, I didn't change them if it was misspelled or the punctuation was different. I put them right in as they were. And I think those letters reveal the characters of the people. The other thing that's unique and about the book is this whole concept of letter writing. People don't write letters anymore. People use email and other forms of communication. Prior to the advent of the coming of the World Wide Web and other ways to communicate, the majority of people did their communication like this with handwritten or typed letters that they mailed. That doesn't happen anymore. It's a rich part of not only American but world history to examine letters. So part of my next book is going to be about how families or individuals who have found or come across letters in their family, how can they organize these letters? How can they find bits of their own family history, of their characters, of their ancestors, through the letters that were written by these ancestors? It's a gift that we have from those letters that we probably won't have as much of in the generations to come, because how many of us save our emails? How many of us put them in storage? How many of us save them to keep for future generations? But I think that's that's a very unique aspect of this book of encouraging people to take a look at what they might have in their own family histories, their own family documents that are going to help them understand about their ancestors.
Interesting, Mr. Kevin. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 6th season, abstract poetry in 3rd season, and of course, my book 101 review in 6th season as well, comedy 101 in 3rd season, and my food 101 in 6th season as well, geography 101, love letters, Movie 101 review, music 101, our 5th season, science 101, sex 101, 4th season, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible verses 101 are my baby podcasts. So please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. So, Mr. Kevin, to end with a forward look, how has this profound experience fundamentally shaped the way you define home and family in your life today?
In 4 words,
Yes, please.
just give you 4 words: um, authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
communication,
Yes.
humor, and sadness.
Very well said, Mr. Kevin. Very well said. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom through your memoir. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever project that you're doing right now?
Sure. One of the ways to learn more about not only the book but other things that I'm doing is to go to my website, which is KevinO'ConnorAuthor.com. I'll say that again, KevinO'ConnorAuthor.com. When you go to the website, there'll be an opportunity for you to sign up for a weekly author newsletter that I put out. The newsletter is about the book, but also other topics like grief, happiness, joy, family stories, books that I'm reading. So I put that out on a weekly basis. So that's one way they can find out more. To get copies of the book, they can look it up on Amazon. It's right there. And also, it's available at any bookstore they go to. It's since it's an independent published book, bookstores don't often put the book on a bookshelf, but they will. It's in their directories. If you want to support a bookstore, you just go to and order it. They'll have it to you in a few days. So you can do it. You can support your local bookstore, or you can go online to Amazon or Goodreads or some of the other online locations to get a copy of the book.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Kevin O'Connor, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to rise. So, Mr. Kevin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate your time and reaching out to me. Thank you very much.
No worries, Mr. Kevin. More to come, people. See you soon.
What's that? I missed your question.